Hello everyone, I guess you know hopefully you're having a wonderful day, and we are back again with another PWCC weekly review where I go through the top 100 soccer items auction off this week. As always, if you enjoy the video, enjoy the series, make sure to leave a like, I'd appreciate it greatly. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. So we found our way on over, as always, starting from the bottom and working our way up. I'm going to do my best to make it somewhat timely, but we'll see. First row, nothing too crazy. I did think that this was somewhat notable, this Pottinger. Talked about it last time I saw it. There was a 1 or a 1.5 that sold recently for much higher than this 3 goes for. That's typically something that you'll see. Whether or not that's shilling or just people jumping at the first one that they see before more come out. That's just something that always sort of happens, so that's interesting to note. Beside that, we got a couple Messis to go into the row. Row above that, nothing too crazy. Lewandowski sticker auto. We have a post-playing career Pele along with a post-playing career Miazza from the EDI set that does look pretty beautiful, if I do say so myself. In this row, we have a 1935 Italian team with Miazza and others. We have a 1980 Maradona crack Pog here. SGC1 goes for 126. Haven't seen a rookie disc go in quite a bit. That kind of jarred that memory, but will be interesting to see if we'll see that anytime soon. Then we have a Eusebio paired up with a couple modern potential greats with Erling Haaland and Mbappe. I think Mbappe is definitely much more solidified in terms of career because if he retired today, that's typically the question you want to ask. If he retired today, how good would he be? And Mbappe's won a World Cup, got to a World Cup final, and almost has the most goals in World Cups all time. So, I mean, he's pretty good. He's pretty proven, I would say, at this point. Obviously, still work to do, and, tons of things can be had at Real Madrid if that move becomes truth. But, yeah, interesting to see there. We have a full row of Messis up here. 3 9s, all from 2006 and 2010 World Cup. I did look up the 2010 just because I was interested in terms of comps where it was going. That did seem like a pretty low sale, and it was. I mean, one of the lowest sales we've seen in the last year, but generally seems to be a relatively stable graph despite the ups and downs. I mean, I guess from sale to sale, it's definitely something that, varies quite a bit, but generally speaking, if you just drew a straight line across the whole thing, it would be relatively consistent. I think that's just some of the lack of liquidity that you see in soccer that causes prices to, spike or dip pretty heavily from sale to sale. Just something that happens, and it could be an advantage if you want to use it that way. In this row, we have a Piero PSA 8 that goes for 130, along with a Papin over here that goes for 132 and a PSA 4. We have a Buffon sticker auto. Row above that, nothing too crazy. We have a 2014 Lionel Messi Prism PSA 10 going for 138, a 72 Pele here in a 5, and a Heung-min Son sticker. This row, we got the GOAT of soccer himself, Ken Griffey Jr. hanging out in the middle, PSA 10 Fleer. We have a Francesco Totti PSA 7. I was interested in this because we don't really talk about the Tottis too much, but I see them from time to time and figured I'd give it a peek. So if we're looking at just 7s and above, this one's going for 144. The PSA 8 went for 162. I would say relatively, I'd pay up another 15, 20 bucks for a +1 grade higher if the opportunity was there. Last PSA 9 did 480, and last 8 did 204, so doesn't seem all too crazy to me. We have this Chicks Bobby Charlton that I looked up because it seemed like relatively high sale. I'm pretty sure that this is 1959. I think I've seen that in places, but if that is incorrect, feel free to correct me. I'm always happy to learn a little bit more. Nonetheless, that goes for 144. Last comps were 88, 80, 91, 96. To be fair, well, I guess one did go just a couple weeks ago, but before that, there had only been one sale, I guess, in the last 4 or 5 months at this point, so I could see why it's maybe jumped a little, but yeah, that seems like a decently high sale, I would say. We have another PSA 8 Piero here, along with a Nobility Messi. Then we have a 1970 Panini Calciatore Pele and a PSA 8. Pretty hard to get that in this grade. Pop 1 of 14, just 3 higher. These are relatively plentiful in totality, but in high grade, not that easy, of course. A PSA 9 Bergman here goes for 156. We'll see another one here soon. I'm pretty sure that this was a solid sale, I would say. These are plentiful in raw condition. They're not terribly hard to grade either, given the white borders, and they don't come stuck for the most part, so you can find them with a clean back relatively easily, and I do like it. It's got 3, somewhat notable players, obviously Beckenbauer being the most notable, but the other ones are no slouches either, with Helmut Schön and Uwe Seeler there. There's the aforementioned Totti there in a PSA 8. Above that, another Piero here, along with the Beckenbauer and a PSA 9. Like the look of all the 66 Beckenbauers. I did take a peek at the grades just to sort of see, and yeah, this PSA 9 went for 162. Last one did 100, so that's quite the bump there. The other Triad Bergman that we were looking at here went for 120 in its last sale, but notably that was in May of 2023. So yeah, they I mean, I guess they haven't really come up as much, but there are a few within the set with Beckenbauer, so that sort of dilutes what everyone's looking for. Maybe it adds to it, being able to get more. In this row, we have a KDB here, a patch. We also have a PSA 5 Roberto Baggio. In the middle is something I'm sad that I missed out on. I was watching the U.S. game last night. Quite enjoyed it, but I did miss a couple Pele San Giorgios, which was a little depressing because I had been looking for just star San Giorgio players, and Pele's one that I'm missing. This SGC 3 goes for $168, which as far as I've seen is a pretty decent price, I would say, if you're the buyer. If you're the seller, probably not so much, but there was a PSA 6 that went for, a relatively affordable price, I would say. We'll talk about that later. We have a 1981 Frank Rijkaard here, going for $174, a rookie in SGC 4. Prior comps on this, PSA 8 went for $410, PSA 7 went for $312, and then we have a 6 at $210. So looking at all those prices, I would say that a 4 going for nearly $200 is a pretty decent sale. Here's a PSA 9 Andres Iniesta going for $180. The more common of the 2002 Panini stickers that he has. In terms of sales prices, it's basically just been dropping for the last year. $500, $300, $400, $220, $180. So really far down. Iniesta has a fair few options, which is always sort of difficult. These guys that are great players, don't get me wrong, but not the star of the era. If they have 4 or 5, however many rookies, it just sort of dilutes it, and I think it becomes a bit difficult. I think some of the people that really want to collect these guys probably already have, and so it's a lot of the partial collectors that sort of have to fill in the gaps, and it becomes tricky for them to sort of figure out what they want. Notably, there were like 15 PSA 10s or something like that submitted by one person recently for this sticker, so that's concerning just in general. There's been some vouching going on for the guy and him sort of talking about how he got them from Italy, and the guy had just stacks of this sticker but none of the other stickers, and one way or the other, I'm guessing they're not fake, but no matter the case, seeing 15 PSA 10s pop up in one submission is never going to be reassuring. So I think that, at least for me, that has some sort of impact. We have a 66 Pele here from Ferrero Eurogallo here, going for $186 and a 4. Above that, this Platini seemed like a pretty decent sale. I will say, I'm not into the crack and resub game. I probably should be. It seems like a fun game to be a part of, a nice little gamble if you're into that. But yeah, 1.5 here. I mean, looking at the front, just a gorgeous front, really good color, well-centered, I would say. And then looking at the back, I mean, typically, they have decent signs of being removed, or at least some signs. I guess I could sort of see how it's removed in certain spots, but generally speaking, I think that this is the type of sticker where maybe you crack it, resubmit it a few times, you might hit like a 6 or 7 or something crazy. Nonetheless, that goes for $192. Pretty high price, but I think that bakes in some of the crack and resub possibility that might be there. Also, PWCC Eye Appeal sticker never hurts. There's been some discussion in the vintage Discord, especially about PWCC Eye Appeal stickers. I never go after them and pay premiums on them, or at least heavy premiums are not really something I chase, but generally I think they do a pretty decent job at picking out good-looking copies. Now, is it a perfect system? I don't think it is, but I don't think grading in the first place is a perfect system, so it's all really subjective. This Zara goes for $200. Typically, what I do in my head is I take stars from sets, and then if you're going from an all-time great star player to sort of the tier beneath it, usually you almost go a tenth of the price, and this would seem to match it. The Di Stefano lately has went for $1,500 to $2,000 in this grade range, so that sort of makes sense what this price is. Youngman Sun Sapphire Green here goes for $210. Above that, a couple Pele's from 1958 and 70. We got the team photo here from the Gazzetta. A Wayne Rooney sticker auto. Pretty solid price. I don't know if he just doesn't sign that much, but $210 for Wayne Rooney post-playing career sticker isn't too bad, I would say. 71 Pele, I've never seen this, but that's a really nice looking Pele. I'll add that. Is hand cut, but goes for $210 and a 4. This is a left back from Italy. Had to do a little bit of research prior to the program here, but that's from 1927. The Lirati set, so same thing as the Miazza, and that goes for $210. Pop 1 of 1, just 2 higher. Moving on up, we have a 2018 Kylian Mbappe Optic Holo PSA 10 going for $222. Felt like a pretty decent price considering, PSG kit, not a rookie, all that jazz. Just a holo, I mean, not serial numbered. This Kevin Keegan goes for $234. Feels, moderately low compared to other ones that we see. PSA 9s typically do $600 to $900, somewhere in there, so an 8 going for $234. seems pretty light. This is the 2004 Cristiano Ronaldo with his name spelled wrong. The 63 Bobby Moore, we've seen a couple of these sell really high. I don't know if this is a trend or what, but I've also seen some of them sell incredibly low, so it's just very hit or miss for one reason or another. This 1969-70 Pele, pop 1 of 1, 1 higher. I'm pretty sure we've seen this run before because this is one that is in my memory. However, not one that you see often, especially considering the pop. So who knows? 53 Bruguera de Stefano, PSA 7, goes for 252. Above that, we have a Zizinho from 52 and a PSA 1. Within the range we expect, a lot of the Brazilian stars from these 50s issues tend to go for between $150 and $400, somewhere in there. Some, maybe higher depending on the significance within the player career. Then next to it, we have your choice of modern, however you want to go about this. Erling Haaland Zebra or a Julian Alvarez Teal. I mean, I get it's a PSA 10 this, PSA 10 that, but it's still a $300 out of 200 Julian Alvarez, a dude that has tons of rookies, like a plethora of rookies. I mean, to me, seems high, but again, that's sort of the name of the game with modern, or ultra modern especially. This row, nothing too crazy. Pele 62, a David Beckham sticker, which seems like a decent price, and then you also have a 2011 Messi and Ronaldo dual sticker there. Then we have a Messi PSA 9 from the 2006 World Cup card set. This Eden Hazard from 2020 and a 1 of 1 PSA 9 Black Prism goes for $444, same price or nearly the same price as this Erling Haaland. This at $480. It bounced back maybe a little bit. I've seen these drift towards $400, so nearly $5 on that one, and we have another one right above it. This Cristiano Ronaldo sold for $500. I looked at comps just because I was interested in this one actually got reran. It had prior sold for $400, I believe. It had prior sold for $420 just a few weeks back. So, I'm unsure if that's going to get paid. But ultimately, I do actually like the award winners cards. I think they look pretty cool. They're kind of unique. I mean, you got this big blown up picture of his face. It's a little strange, but I think within the 2017 Topps Chrome, it is something that sticks out to me. Not as much as, say, the Lightning Strike, which I don't have as much of an affinity for. Then we have a Pele on-card auto going for $516. That's a in-person auto, not distributed that way, but $528 for this Pele Heinerle PSA 2, top 30%. Looked at comps on that, and it seems relatively fair. Last comps were $500 on a fixed price, so, decent sale, presumably. There was a $480 comp, a $450 comp, so it's seeming to be taking small steps up, slow and steady. Then we have a Jude Bellingham Orange Bubbles, which is numbered to an unknown amount. You got to figure that out yourself, but goes for $552 there. This is the rarer Iniesta from the 2002 Panini set. This is a update set, essentially. I think it's a winter update or something along those lines. Goes for $564. Last comp was $457, and prior to that, there was a PSA 9 that sold for, $673 last year, so about what you'd expect within the range. In this row, a Mazzola from 1947. At first, PSA 7 kind of struck me as really high grade, but then you see pop 1 of 2, and it must just be one of those sets that tends to have more in high grade for whatever reason. We have a Nanina Rivera in a 2.5 going for $600. Really, really nice look to that one. The Naninas always look great. And then there's the San Giorgio that I mentioned earlier, the Pele that I was sad I didn't really go after. Again, game was going on, I was distracted, but ultimately comparing to pre-boom, which is the only other comp for a PSA 6 you can do, it was $263. It goes for $588. So it has doubled since the sort of boom of soccer, but I think that's more than fair, generally speaking. If we look for PSA 5s, I don't think there are any PSA 5 comps. There are not. PSA 7s, there's one comp for $6,600, but that's back in 2022, a bit more during the boom. And then 4s, $750 and $990, and both of those were last year. So I think assuming that there's nothing wrong with it, I didn't look too deep into it, but yeah, that seems like quite the deal there. Pretty jealous, not gonna lie. It's a recent cert, so part of me hopes that, maybe there's more out there and that I can have a shot again, but we'll see. Red Carbon Jude up here next to a 2004 SP Authentic Cristiano Ronaldo out of 325, goes for $630. I actually really like these. Especially the SP Authentics, because they are a 2003-2004 year release. They're released in 2004, though, which is why I guess PSA gives them that year. By typical PSA grading standards, you would imagine they're 2003. And ultimately, you can get this for nearly the same price as some of the Upper Deck base cards from the same year. So for me, this is really cool. I also like the Black Kid as well. $630 doesn't seem bad at all. Definitely would rather have it over this Cristiano Ronaldo that goes for $750. You can also take home another $120 and spend that however you may. As we edge into the 1,000 territory, yeah, this row was interesting just because it's sort of a weird spot in modern. Like, it's nearly $1,000, which in soccer is pretty hefty. But I mean, at least for me, I don't really think I would much prefer any of these. I mean, I guess if I had to take one, I'd probably rank it. Gosh, I don't even know. I don't know. It's so hard. I might go Maradona auto just because there aren't a ton. And then I'd go World Cup stars Messi and then the Pele auto. Mostly just because you see tons of Pele autos. I know it's Pele, but there's tons of them. I do like die cuts in general, and Maradona autos are a little bit harder to come by from what I can find. This also numbered out of 25. I do wonder how people look back on these sticker autos one day, because right now we're so close to when these were released in time that, you know, they seem sort of, you know, high end, but not high end at the same time because they are sticker autos and post-playing career and all that jazz. But when we look back on it at some point in time, you know, there's really only going to be a 10, 15 year period where these guys even signed and had cards released with their autos. So I think at some point in time that could be seen as sort of a golden era for these guys. But there's a lot of things that need to happen between then and now. So working above it, we have this Jade Erling Haaland. I looked it up because I knew in my head I've seen this so many times for a 1 of 1. And yeah, it's sold 4 times now. Each time, though, there's like 3 months between them, so maybe there was a legitimate sale somewhere in here. I find it hard to believe that each subsequent owner is selling it every 3 months. I'm guessing some shilling or something's going on here. But yeah, first sale 3,200, and then 16, 15, and 1,000. So interesting to see. Again, just another case point with ultra modern and people presumably shilling. I don't know. It's just so hard to know. I mean, that's part of what scares me with a lot of these like really low numbered cards is the demand and the price point at which these should go is just so up in the air. Like, there really is no formula behind it. There is no way to really know. It's just sort of whatever people want to pay. And when that's the case, you know, there's a lot more fear of having someone try to bid you up or whatever. And then when you go to sell it, there's also the, you know, selling side where you have no clue really what you're going to get. Yeah, you might get a ton, but at the same time, you might not get much, especially on an auction where, you know, you're probably not finding the one guy that really wants this. You're just getting someone that's probably going to try to sell it to another guy. Then we have a BGS 10 Color Blast. This might be one of the scenarios where I just take the Color Blast. I know it's a card people want, and a BGS 10 is about as good as you're going to get, so I guess a black label would look really good with the black Color Blast there, but yeah, a couple Hollands there. We also have this booklet Ronaldo. These are redemptions that have sort of been fulfilled recently, so more of those are coming out. I do like the booklets, especially for guys like Ronaldo that have really big autos. I think it just looks really nice. At the same time, they're hard to store and a little bit more difficult to display, but not that I really go after them, to be honest, just because, again, they're weird to display. They're not your typical card sort of format, so there is something against it, in my mind at least. Up here we have a PSA 6.5 Velita back of the Panini Calciatore that went for $12.30. Yeah, looking back at past sales for the Velita back, we have a 3 for $218, a 5 for $480. There's actually a sale. Okay, so there's a 5 with an eye peel that went for $1,300 last year, so relatively that seems like a decent price point. I looked all the way back, and yeah, there was actually 6.5 here. I already had it pulled up. Same one that sold for $5,600 in 2022. So, doing a bit better than whoever bought that, and presumably a decent price point. Definitely a really good looking sticker, nonetheless, and pop 1 of 1. Again, this is sort of the spot where, like, the eye appeal sticker is a bit weird because it's a pop 1 of 1. Like, how is it the top 30% of the pop 1 of 1? I don't know. That type of stuff is a bit befuddling, but to each their own. Then we have a fake BGS Ronaldo sticker that's going to do a horrible price and probably drag down comps on other Ronaldo stickers because BGS is incompetent, but, just the lay of the land at this point. Really wish they'd do something. I mean, it's just so egregious how, like, BGS Pop is probably half fake when it comes to the 2002 Ronaldo sticker, and they do no effort in trying to get them off the market from what I can tell. They do no effort in sort of mitigating that and telling people they're fake or admitting that they were wrong. They just sort of, put their hands up and don't even say sorry, I guess. They're just like, you guys will figure it out. Nonetheless, interesting. João Felix gold bar goes for $1,400. We're going to comp some gold here, so I looked up the price of 14 karat gold ounces, and yeah, $12.70 basically. So, I mean, you know, $140 higher than what the bar price is. To me, it doesn't seem, you know, crazy, I guess, if you're someone that really likes gold or wants to invest a little bit in gold and you also like João Felix. So, I mean, paying another $130 for an out of 5 Eminence gold auto, I mean, doesn't seem bad to me. But yeah, not my card that I'm going after, but, you know, to the right person. Then we have a 2017 green PSA 10 Cristiano Ronaldo going for $1,400. Looked that up, and basically last comps were all within the range, $1,400, $1,300, $1,500, $1,500. So, yeah, I mean, nothing crazy going on there. We have a PSA 2 Aquarella. I was interested in this just because I haven't looked up the Aquarellas much, and the graph sort of, you know, aligned with what I've been seeing. Initially, at least towards the end of last year, there seemed to sort of be a dip, and seems to have come back a little bit. This really high sale here, no clue what's going on. That's actually an average comp. There was a comp for like $1,500, and then a comp for $3,500 or something on eBay, but yeah, I have no clue. I'm guessing that's just shilled, or maybe it was a best offer that Card Ladder doesn't really understand was a best offer. I have no clue. Nonetheless, Garrincha Jose Innocente here, authentic, goes for $1,500. Really, really nice looking Garrincha. Maybe not the condition of the card necessarily, but I love the blue background and sort of the pose there. Really hard to find pre-58 and especially pre-57 Garrinchas. I sorted by lowest price ever sold, and basically the lower ones are some of these dollar bill type figures that I guess we can't get a great picture of at the moment, but yeah, I mean, a team photo there, so obviously not going to be quite the same. But from what I can find, other than these Adolos that have no picture attached to them, practically the lowest you're going to find. There are, for example, there's a 55 here in a black and white that goes for $1,500. There's another 55 here of a Jose Innocente with the red background that goes for $18. But yeah, from what I can tell, it seems like 1 or 2 of these pop up a year, so pretty rare in general. And personally, you know, I guess I'm a bit of a Garrincha guy, but I probably rather have that Garrincha than the Aquarella Pele. I know it's Aquarella Pele. I know, you know, this is sort of iconic at this point, or maybe it's working its way there, but at the same time, they're pretty plentiful and, you know, not something that is all that crazy to see. I mean, you know, they're practically in every other weekly at this point, while this is something I don't think I've ever seen before. So keeping it moving, you got your mixed bag of ultra modern here, a Neymar gold bar, which is, you know, probably a little bit more desirable than the João Felix. You also have a Camavinga 1 of 1 and a Cristiano Ronaldo 1 of 1. Make of that what you will. Moving into the top 6 here, we have an Eric Cantona PSA 9 going for $26.40. Look back at comps on this one. The only other 9 that has sold last year for $3,800, so a little bit of a dip. I think, you know, as much as this is a great looking sticker and it's really hard to find, I totally get all that. It is Cantona, which doesn't get much hobby love. I feel like personally that Manchester United players should get more hobby love. I don't know why that isn't quite there. I would have thought coming into the hobby that would have been one of the most collected, if not the most collected team within the hobby. But maybe it's just the last, you know, sort of 10 years and how they've fallen into the abyss. I think that probably doesn't help, right? There's a lot of, you know, I see a ton of Man City collectors, which surely 10 years ago there wouldn't have been. And I see a ton of Liverpool, a ton of Madrid. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I guess I can understand why it's fallen a bit. Also, no PSA 10s is always helpful, I guess, if you own the 9, but at the same time, it does leave a little bit of fear. If a 10 comes out, what would it go for? It's always an interesting question. This Messi BGS 8 goes for basically the same price as they've been going for lately, which is, you know, not too shabby considering it has no subgrades either. A 1 of 1 Holland here from Merlin Chrome does $39.60. And then in the top 3, we have a couple Hollands paired up with a Pele here. So this is a out of 35 PSA 9, and this is an out of 25 PSA 10. And there's quite the discrepancy in price. So $4,200 compared to $11,000. Obviously, the red PSA 10 looks a bit better. The patch is nicer. And all that good stuff. But to me, I just look at these autos and it just makes me so frustrated. And it only seems like we're getting more and more of these types of autos. I don't know if people just don't know how to do cursive anymore, or if they just don't care, or possibly, and very probably, that there's just so many sticker autos that these guys sign that they don't want to put in that much effort into an auto. And I get that as well. I think that there's a lot of different angles you could come at with that. But it does leave me sort of not liking autos as much, especially modern ones. Looks like maybe a little something there. That might be a hint of some sort of writing, but nonetheless, yeah, just a tough auto. And I like Mbappe. I think Mbappe actually, he puts some effort into his auto. It looks all right. I always say that this is like a 5-year-old trying to put his initials on the card. Like, it just is brutal to look at. Comparatively, I really like the look of this Pele Titulares. Really, really high price. I guess if we want to go look at it, it does look really good. It's got the IPL sticker, top 15%, which to some people means nothing. To some people means a little bit. I think it's deserved here. I mean, it's a really nice looking 2. I mean, when you look at the front, the corners are pretty good. The edges are pretty good. Noticeably, that seems to be some paper loss or something, which is where I'm guessing a lot of the grade deduction comes from. There are rarer versions of this. There's a version, the second rarest version, I guess, is the one without the star up here, and then there's one without the star or the auto. Personally, the one without the star or the auto would be the most preferred, even if it wasn't the rarest, but it is the rarest, and thus it's going to be the most preferred. I think it looks really good too, because this auto is not Pele's. I think it's Nilton Santos's. I could be wrong. If I am wrong, someone please correct me again. Nonetheless, a beautiful looking Pele there. Back also immaculate. Really couldn't find much to be mad about on that. I can sort of understand why it did the price it did. Ultimately, really, really high price. Last PSA 1 was a no-star version that went for $3,800. Now, to be fair, I remember looking at this one, had a torn up back, so that plays a factor. But there was another one before that with the star, and this one went for $2,700. So last sale was $2,700. This one, a grade higher with an eye appeal sticker, does almost 4 times the price, which is pretty hefty. And even if we go back, I mean, I guess last time we've seen over 10K on one of these was a PWCC eye appeal sticker PSA 2 that went for 10.8. So actually, this is the same exact copy. So pretty impressive, I guess, that over a year and a half, during a time where vintage didn't fare the best. I mean, from the end of 2022 to now, it hasn't been terrible for every card, but there have definitely been some that fell off. Definitely not this Pele, though, so doing a pretty good number there, and fun to see. I think this is also the first time we've had really like a tie over 10K for the top, both of them ending at 11.1. Interesting to see, and ultimately, I would say a pretty fun week, especially at the top. Pretty modern heavy, but I don't mind that. Nice to be able to look through some different cards every now and then. We'll take a look at next week and see what we got. Starting from the top, working our way down, we have a really cool Topps Dynasty here from 2016 with the Pele Auto. We have a BGS 9 Ronaldo Mega Cracks, a PSA 3 Aquarella, a nice PSA 8 Messi sticker that presumably is authentic, a Gem Mint BGS 9.5 Green. We have a red Iniesta. This one I'm pretty sure we saw sell already, so maybe giving it another go here. PSA 4 Pele Evav here with the Evava. That's a big one. 2.5 in this Titulares. Beautiful. The gold treble runs again. Just saying. Then we have a PSA 4 Maradona from 78. We have a PSA 8 Calcio Flash. And, a ton of other fun stuff throughout. 3 Maradona rookie, although you're going to get sick almost looking at that. Paired up with another numbered SP Authentic Ronaldo. So, ton of fun stuff next week. Looking forward to it. Hopefully you are too. If you enjoyed the video, as always, do make sure to leave a like. Helps me, helps the channel. Appreciate it greatly. If you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. And we'd love to hear your thoughts down below on any of the items you saw today. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day. And peace.